If you are thinking about getting into tech sales, you might be wondering what is the best degree to have if you want to break into this industry. So in this video, I'm gonna answer a few questions like, does it even matter what you major in college? What's the difference between having a 4-year degree and a 2-year degree? Does it even matter if you don't even have a degree? And what if you already are working in a completely different industry and you want to break into tech sales? So if that sounds interesting to you, stick around because we're gonna get all your questions answered in this video. What's going on, everybody? It's Patrick Dang here, creator of Sales Legacy, the ultimate online sales masterclass that's gonna show you how to start and accelerate your sales career. Now, before we get started, make sure to give this video a like, subscribe, and turn on notifications if you wanna see more videos like this, and let's go ahead and dive in. So the first thing we're gonna cover is why your degree doesn't even matter when it comes to starting a career in tech sales. Now, the misconception people have is that, they think they need to major in business or communication or even in technology or coding if they want to break into tech sales, right? Which is technology sales, which is like selling software, SaaS, APIs, many different technology products that exist. Now, the truth is, it does not matter what you majored in university or college. You don't have to major in business. You don't have to major in sales or marketing or communications, or you don't have to major in technology at all. You don't even have to have any experience when it comes to technology if you want to break into tech sales. And even in sales in general, it's not like people go to a university thinking, oh, when I graduate from a 4-year university, I'm gonna be a salesman, right? No one is really saying that. A lot of times people go into school, they study whatever they are interested in at the time, and then when it comes to finding a job, they're thinking, oh, maybe I should join tech sales, right? So even if you majored in business, usually they don't really teach sales courses in university anyways. And if they do, it's very limited. So it's not really that applicable to the real world. And just because you studied business doesn't make you more qualified to be a salesperson, because I got a business degree from the University of Southern California, and I can tell you that, the courses I took, not everything was related to sales, right? Maybe there were a few about communications, and I did take a sales course, but majority of the things I took were like economics, finance, accounting, operations. So you're basically just taking a whole breadth of courses that don't necessarily prepare you for being a tech sales person. And so to further illustrate this, I'll tell you a story. When I joined Oracle, what they did was they hired 200 people at a university straight out of college to join the company, right? And meeting a bunch of different people, I met people who were in the sales program, right? It was called the Class Of program, and they came from all different majors, right? Not everyone was a business major. I myself was business. Other people were biology. Some people were thinking about going to med school, and then they were like, never mind, let me go into technology sales. Some people were in economics, philosophy, math, psychology, literally like any major under the sun. We were all in the same place here to do the same job, which is to sell technology. So you can kind of see, like, if Oracle is willing to hire so many different college graduates who have no experience in sales and didn't, have a major in business or anything like that, just random majors, and they know that they can hire them and train them from the ground up. Well, that's to show you that your degree or what you major in does not necessarily matter to actually get your first entry-level job. Now, there is value in having a degree, right? And there is a difference between going to a 4-year university and a 2-year university or college or associate's degree. And now this may vary depending on what country you live in and what state you live in and the company you're going after. But from my personal experience of what I've seen in Silicon Valley and San Francisco, companies tend to lean on hiring people who come from a 4-year university over a 2-year. That doesn't mean that if you have a 2-year degree, it doesn't mean you can't get a job, but I would say that it's easier if you went to a 4-year university, and it's easier if you went to one with a brand name. So in California, it would be, let's say, USC, UCLA, UC Berkeley, Stanford. So those have the biggest brands, right? And so by having a 4-year degree from a university like that and you want to get into tech sales, I've seen personally that people who come from those universities usually have an easier time when it comes to interviewing well and actually getting a job. But granted that it's very difficult to get into those universities, so they already do have some kind of intelligence and work ethic to even get in, and then when they apply, they might be a better fit, right? I think a lot of times why it's easier, it's really from filters, right? Like, I've seen other people who come from, let's say, schools that don't come from a big brand name, and they could do well in their sales jobs too if they have the right mindset and attitude. But I think when it comes to, recruiters hiring in mass, a lot of times, they just filter you based on your university, and unfortunately that's the case, and they don't get to know everyone right off the bat because they only have so much time in a day. So Long story short, 4-year university, you have a better shot. 2-year university is still possible, but you have to work harder to show that you are just as good as anybody else, because people do look at you based on your degree. And now another question I get a lot is, what if you do not have a degree? Let's say you dropped out of college, or maybe you just never went to college and you want to break into sales. Now, obviously, it's a little more difficult to get a job without a degree, right? Like, I think more and more in the future, degrees are becoming less important, but for when it comes to larger organizations, like if you want to work at a Salesforce, an Oracle, Microsoft, and Amazon, a lot of times they do look at your degree and they don't just say like, oh, if you don't have any degree, it doesn't matter, come in the doors, because there is a filter when it comes to recruiting. Now, that granted, there are companies that don't necessarily care about having a degree and they look more for, can you actually do the work? But I think when it comes to, the larger companies, they do actually look at the degree, because it's kind of like, how can you get a high-paying sales job or a high-paying technology job in general without a degree? It's kind of hard to break your foot in the door. That's why it's important to do the upfront work and get your education right so that you can transition into that sales job. But if you don't have a degree, it's okay. You can't break into the industry, but you have to work harder. You have to show that you're willing to work harder than anybody else to prove that you're actually good and you're just not like a random person coming into a company, right? Because a lot of times, even though, let's say the degree is just a piece of paper, well, it's kind of a validator or indicator that says like, hey, this guy is somewhat hardworking. We can kind of trust him because he was able to get into this good school and he might probably be doing a good job for us if we hire him, right? So, if you don't have a degree, it's okay. Just work harder and you'll figure it out. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is, what do companies expect you to know if you are trying to break into the industry? Now, like I said before, if you are graduating with a philosophy major, right? What do you know about sales? Pretty much nothing. Or if you went to a 2-year university, same thing, right? What do you know about sales? Nothing. And if you don't have a degree, what do you know about sales? Probably nothing. So at the end of the day, when it comes to tech sales, people don't actually expect you to know anything. What they expect you to do is know how to think, solve problems, have emotional intelligence, communicate with people. A lot of times these are the soft skills, not necessarily like hard skills that people look for when it comes to potential in a salesperson. So you don't have to already have sales internships. I did in the past, in which I did to leverage to get a sales job, and it did help. However, if you didn't have sales experience in the past, it's okay, because you just have to think about the times when you communicated with people or had to convince people to do something or lead an organization. These are still characteristics that are commonly found in good salespeople. So as long as you have some experience to show that you're good with people and you can influence people and to buy and sell and communicate, well, that's your leverage to actually do well in an interview and actually get a good job. Now, if you don't have any experience at all when it comes to communicating with people, persuasion, and things like that, well, it probably will be very difficult for you to get a sales job, because there's no indicator to show that you're gonna be successful at the job. And I think if you're in that position, you have to really reflect on your life and think, have you been working hard enough to earn a position? You can't just say like you deserve to get a sales job. You have to earn it. You have to like do things in your life to actually build some type of experience so that you can leverage it to the next thing, right? If you're not doing that, it's kind of like asking for a free handout. So definitely work hard for your goals and don't just expect things to come to you. And the next thing I want to touch on is what if you're already working, you graduated, you're already working in a certain industry and you want to transition into tech sales and you don't have sales experience. Now, the good thing for you is that a lot of companies actually do hire people who come from different backgrounds doing, completely random job or different job in a different industry, and they want to break into tech sales, right? They're very open to that. The most important thing is leveraging your, the things that you've done in the past to show somebody, like an employer, that, hey, I know I didn't really do sales in the traditional sense in the past, but here are ways I led an organization. Here are ways I had to communicate or sell things internally at my company, right? There's always a way to spin your story where it's more palatable for your employers, where it really highlights your strengths. I feel like as long as you have the right work ethic, a positive attitude, your willingness to learn, you'll probably be successful in sales in general, right? So if you have those characteristics, and key thing is those characteristics, right? And being coachable and having the right attitude, people are willing to take a chance on you if they believe you can sell, right? So it's not about what you already know, it's what you are willing to learn that will really determine whether or not someone will hire you. And that's my personal take, just me working in Silicon Valley myself. And I believe that if you apply those lessons to your life, you'll be able to get your dream sales job as well. And so those are gonna be my tips when it comes to breaking into tech sales. If you enjoy this video, make sure to give it a like, subscribe, turn on notifications. And if you wanna learn more about how to start and accelerate your sales career, make sure to check out my masterclass, Sales Legacy. A lot of my students who've taken Sales Legacy, they just graduated from college and they learned the material and they got really high paying sales job at big companies. Other people transition from, totally different industry and they transition into tech sales after taking my course. So if that sounds interesting to you at all, check the link in the description to learn more about Sales Legacy, my masterclass. And with that said, my name is Patrick Dang and I'll see you guys in the next one.